if you're not perked up already. We've got two great presenters here from Menlo Park Academy, one of our silver sponsors today. We have the director of the school, Seamus O'Hara, as well as the associate director of admissions, Jennifer Ingraham. So they are here today to talk about helping gifted children be successful during the pandemic. And the premise of this is they're going to discuss the unique challenges faced by gifted children that arose with the onset of the pandemic. O'Hara and Ingraham discussed the solutions to these challenges, from social emotional learning to delivering a robust gifted education, and how Menlo Park is applying these solutions during this current school year. So I'm going to turn it over to them. In the meantime, if you have any questions at all that you'd like for them to address at the conclusion of the session, please type them into the chat area. We'd love to address those questions, so feel free to type in anything you please. And with that, I will turn it over to Menlo Park.
Thank you, Brad. I'm Seamus O'Hara. I am the school director here at Menlo Park Academy, and we are excited to talk with you here at the STEM Expo. We're going to be presenting, like Brad said, about helping gifted children, be successful in terms of the pandemic and all that we've been facing with virtual learning and what that looks like for gifted children specifically. But to be honest with you, a lot of the things that we're going to be sharing can be applicable to all children of all ages. So to get right into it, like I said, I'm the school director, but with me here is Jennifer Ingraham. She's the associate director of admissions. Jen, would you like to say hi? And
hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jen, could you help us out? Just kind of give a little bit about who we are, what we are as a school.
Sure. Well, Menlo Park Academy is a public K through 8 school. We're tuition free. We are a charter school, but nonprofit, which makes a difference. And as a school for gifted students only, all students must test and qualify as gifted to be able to attend. We are starting open enrollment in December for next year, but we currently still take transfers throughout the year.
Great, thank you so much, Jen. I was originally saying that I would do that part, so I caught Jen a little off guard, but I was thinking there's gonna be a lot of my voice on this presentation, so I thought I'd change it up a little bit. So let's move on to the next slide. So I'm gonna be talking a lot about the audience of one, so just keep that in mind. Some of you know that term, some of you may not, and so we'll get into it as we kind of move through the presentation. So after schools closed their doors to in-person learning in March and April because of the pandemic, schools were seeking answers on how to best deliver their curriculum. But rather than focus on what they should do to serve gifted students, they settled for what they could do. So we saw everybody kind of scrambling to respond to that dance that happened in March, where it was all of a sudden one weekend, it was like schools are shutting down. And what we saw was this audience of one for everybody, sort of across the board. And the audience of one basically refers to the idea that a student does something, a performance, work, some kind of product, some kind of outcome, and they turn it into their teacher. And a lot of us had this as we were students. We turn it in and it's just the teacher. And that's something that I like to combat at Menlo Park Academy. And I know a lot of school leaders look to combat that, more authentic audiences for students. But it's very important for gifted learners to have that authentic audience because they have a gift, and a gift is meant to be shared. So in the spring, what we saw with a lot of schools, including ourselves, was, well, teachers were just sort of saying, here's some stuff that you could be doing and maybe should be doing, but like really it's just like getting busy work done. Turn it into me. And teachers maybe weren't really doing the best responses. They weren't really giving quality feedback to students here and everywhere that I kind of talked to. They weren't really responding in the best way possible. So with gifted learners, we really want to be really cognizant of that, because nothing really slips by their radar. They're really into sort of getting quality feedback and knowing how their own performance is playing out. So if we have the situation where our gifted learners are turning in their work virtually without much feedback and really to just one person, it really resonates with them that something's wrong and something isn't quite right in their world and for their learning. Again, they're gifted, so it's the same for all students, but it just kind of hits home a little bit more for gifted learners. All right. So how virtual learning affects gifted children. Here's kind of the challenges that we're facing here, that we are currently tackling at Menlo Park Academy. And I would say that we're doing a really great job at not reliving what we did in the spring, but we kind of wanted to share some of the things that we're challenged with, that we're working on, and some of the things that we've had success with. So Jen, take it away, and I'll kind of add my little 2 cents on each slide.
Okay. So the first area where we saw the gifted students were struggling was they were lacking the interaction with other gifted students. It's very important for every student, whether gifted or not, that they're interacting with other children their age. For gifted students, it's very important that they're interacting with their like-minded peers so that they can have discussions, conversations. They kind of lift each other up. You know, a big support group of people that are on the same level as them.
Yeah, this is something that's like, you know, we all deal with on some level. Their giftedness is sort of oftentimes the thing that they can't really, they have a hard time relating to others, or really kind of playing out their best selves with like-minded or non-like peers. And I always joke around with my wife. I like to talk about Star Wars, and I like to talk about dinosaurs, and I like to talk about LeBron James and that the Lakers just won the championship. My wife could care less, but my son really likes to talk about that stuff. He's 7, so I just love talking with my son about that. And so that same feeling that we all get when we kind of get together with someone who we can really talk to about things, that's what gifted students experience when they're with other gifted children, but it's all for all sorts of other reasons. All right, next, Jen.
All right, so second area, we saw they were lacking interaction with their teachers. Just as it's important that they're interacting with other students, they need to have that interaction with their teachers. As gifted students have this big desire to keep learning. Like I always say, they're like sponges where they just want more and more information. They, you know, might think of a topic and then kind of go down the rabbit hole of thinking about it and trying to find out more information. And so they need to have that interaction with their teachers to help guide them with the learning.
Yeah, this is something that we've all kind of seen play out with certain students in our classes that may be gifted or you know, just have a special talent of some sort, where they have their brain or their ability to play an instrument is a really powerful resource for them. And being students, being kids, being young people, they oftentimes maybe can go, you know, they need guidance. They can kind of be using their skills or their talents in a way that's maybe not productive. So they know, and they kind of have an intuitive drive to look towards guidance with adults to harness the power of whatever they do super well. And so being able to be in connection with their teachers is super important for gifted learners.
So next we found during the pandemic, there was a lot of anxiety rising, and it created a lot of emotional issues for everyone across the board, parents, students, gifted students. We saw this anxiety level reach very high amount with gifted students because they have they're often more sensitive to everything around them. So they look at the world in the big world view and how it affects everyone. So they start becoming very concerned with the nation, also with, you know, the people right around them. And, you know, they start thinking deeper of how this is really affecting me. So we saw that increase in anxiety, and then it started causing depression for our students. So it was an area that was really important for us to target to help the children.
Yeah, so gifted learners are oftentimes, like Jen is saying, you know, they're dealing with the same things that all students deal with. But now I want you to imagine a student that's super good at making connections, recognizing patterns about the world around them, and they start to make maybe sense of things at a faster clip than maybe your average student. But now we're in this weird pandemic, and to be frank with you, nobody really knows how to make sense of what we're dealing with right now. There's no clear precedent for it. There's no norms for it. as full-fledged adults, we're all scratching our heads and wondering what is going on around us. So for kids that are really good at recognizing patterns and seeing historical patterns, they're searching for an answer. That doesn't exist right now in this context very easily. So we do see an uptick in the needs for making sure that the learners are, you know, socially and emotionally, you know, kept safe. Next.
You know, I'll just want to tell a short story on that as I start talking.
I'll go back.
This summer, I was talking with some families, and one of our students, she's a 6th grader now, she was telling me how she thinks that she just wants to learn virtually and that's it, because she was terrified of coming in and maybe carrying the COVID virus with her, even if she didn't have symptoms, but she might actually spread it to her classmates or teachers. And she was terrified of, you know, being responsible of spreading this illness amongst everyone. And just that, how, I mean, she's in 6th grade and it affected her in such great degrees that when she was telling me she's tearing up and everything, and she's so afraid she might spread it. And the student never had COVID or anything, but she was terrified of spreading it. So that tells you, like, kind of like that level that gifted students will take it a little bit further than other students would. Anyway, so we can go on.
Yeah, I got the next slide. Here we go.
Okay, thanks. So also we saw for gifted learners, because they want to go into subjects in greater depth and they like to explore information more, they were becoming academically unsatisfied in their schools. A lot of schools were dropping their gifted program and just combining their gifted students in the regular classrooms and weren't able to offer any of those extras for the students. So now we have all these gifted students in these schools that aren't getting their needs met once again. So it was really important for Menlo to focus on what can we do to make sure we're addressing the academic needs, the social emotional needs, the interaction with other students and teachers, how we could bring that all together for them to have them be successful during this time.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that we're still living this out, right? We're still in the middle of this pandemic, just like everyone else. So, you know, the advice that we're offering and the kind of information that we're offering right now is sort of a look into our current process and what we are doing and the solutions that we're playing out currently in real time. And some of them are more fleshed out than others, and some of them we're still working on and refining, but let's get into those solutions. We often say here at Menlo Park Academy, gifted students don't need more work, they need different work. And I asked Anthony, our slide guy, to change that because I rail against the idea of students saying, I'm done with my work. And as educators, we've heard this time and time again. Students will rush through something, especially gifted learners. They almost have this, this need to accomplish something and then just say, check, done. Like, we all love that a to-do list when we get to actually cross things off or check things off. And they're so good at doing things that if you give them actual things to do and work, they can get it done lickety-split and move on with their day. But I'm more concerned with learning, not work. So I had them change that to gifted students don't need more work, they need different learning. And so for those who have worked with gifted students, they know it's not just about the amount, the quantity of stuff, it's about the quality and the passion behind what's being accomplished. So this is the big thing I want everyone to concentrate on here, especially in the spring. We gave all of our students stuff to do out of sheer just not knowing what to do with ourselves. But what we could do with virtual learning with any student, but especially gifted students, is we can tap into each student's passion, like what they get up in the morning thinking about, and we can use that to leverage into like high quality, day-to-day, what I call like a drone or a project-based learning type environment. So they have the standards-based things that they need to accomplish in their virtual environment, but that at any given time, they should have learning that they're doing, an experience that they're playing out that can never be done. They can never be finished with. We'll get more to that in just a second here. So before we get to any of that stuff, before we get to know their passion, we have to get to know the students to be able to actually unearth that passion. So I'm big on saying to all of my teachers, connect before content is a super important thing. And although a lot of students want to jump into content and a lot of parents think day one there should be a jumping into content, yeah, you can jump into content to some extent, but it's going to be of no real good use. You're going to have a lot of work being done, not a lot of quality learning going on unless students feel as though the guide or the instructor, the mentor, whoever it is with them actually cares about them. So better understanding students' needs. Fall 2020 versus spring 2020. Understanding the needs of our gifted students and delivering gifted curriculum. This was our focus. So for those of you out here, we're going to be using two terms, synchronous and asynchronous. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. Synchronous or real-time learning opportunities accommodate gifted students' needs by providing interaction with teachers and like-minded peers. So there's two types of ways of going about this, right? There's also asynchronous, which is offline, not real-time learning opportunities accommodate students' learning needs by providing opportunities to work at their own pace. Again, I might change that to learn at their own pace. So synchronous is what we're doing right now. We could actually talk to each other. We're in real time and we're presenting to you. If this were just simply a recording, it would be asynchronous. You could watch it later. You could watch it at your own speed, at your own pace. You could also be doing other things. And so at Menlo Park Academy, we follow a certain schedule with the kids. So there's going to be a bunch of things we're going through here, but you're going to be hearing synchronous and asynchronous a lot as we go through it. Daily structure for routine with flexibility. That's the big important part here for what works so well with virtual learning and STEM gifted learners in a STEM environment. Gifted learners are sometimes eager to start their assignments or finish them quickly, like I was mentioning before. A combination of synchronous and asynchronous lessons to each class helps ensure a regular routine, which provides predictability for younger learners, but also allows room for flexibility when needed. Teachers can provide optional enrichment activities for students to complete. And this is exactly what I was talking about before with that passionate, tapping into the passion of the students. So each block, if you will, a student might have the opportunity to interact with their peers, with their teachers, to kind of hit on those points we were mentioning earlier were big challenges. But then there's certain blocks of time where a student could and should be able to tap into their own interests and sort of leverage their learning and leverage their interests for their learning, kind of a play back and forth to be able to reach their full potential and their best selves and really play on that passion piece. So those enrichment activities, there should be a must do and a may do. The must do is more of the standards-based kind of normal stuff, but the may do should be those times that provide those enrichment activities for students. And again, the big play here is that we want the enrichment activities to be something that can never be done. Complete, I guess I should say. One of the examples I like to use is I make a podcast for the school. I like making a podcast for the school. I could never be done making the podcast for the school. I could keep making more content. I could keep getting better at my content. I could keep refining how I do things. There would never be an end point to my passion. So let's move on. Ramping up social emotional learning. So we want to alleviate gifted students' anxiety by providing access to their peers and teachers. Social emotional service providers can help new students become acquainted with their classmates in virtual environments and proactively work with gifted students to encourage classroom participation. So we have started a whole different branch of our school that's just social emotionally minded to get the students very much engaged with what it is to be in this pandemic, what it is to navigate school. I think, middle school is a tough ball game no matter what's happening around you. So to have sort of a proactive approach to helping students cope with the world around them helps any student, especially those gifted students who are craving sort of a better, deeper understanding of what's happening around them. So really kind of focusing on that social emotional piece is key. Maintaining a robust gifted education. So a whole child approach to learning includes opportunities beyond core classes. This is an important piece to recognize. At Menlo Park Academy, we often look at the child as a big whole. Core classes are important. We care about test scores, but if we do the other things well, the test scores will come. So the arts programs, things of that nature, they're really important at Menlo Park Academy because they evoke creativity and critical order thinking skills. Enrichment activities allow gifted students time to reacclimate to an online education before introducing new material. Enrichment activities may include virtual field trips, articles, mini projects, and podcasts. So this is sort of the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about here. This is where the passion should live. And if a student has passion and there's a lot of fuel being poured on that passion, now we have that connection piece. Now we have maybe synthesis with peers doing other projects. Now we have something in which the students are doing that's an authentic audience, that's for real people in the real world, that's not just to the audience of one, that's not like turn it into your teacher, maybe I'll get feedback, maybe I'll care, maybe they'll sort of read it, maybe they won't. This is something that I care about and other people are viewing, looking at, experiencing, using. And it's just a whole piece that can make me feel like my school is something real. I can wake up in the morning every day and want to be there, whether it's virtual or not. And now the social emotional piece is easy to tap into because they feel like they're heard and they feel like they're appreciated because their passion is known and their passion is being guided properly. So Jen's going to share with you some success stories that we have encountered recently, even though we are admittedly in the middle of a lot of these problem-solving processes. Jen?
Right. Thanks. And I think it's important that we acknowledge we're in the process of some of this because nothing is a one size fits all for everyone. And Menlo, we're always trying to make things better. So we do have changes that happen throughout the year, but it's always with the goal to make it better for the students and what they need. So recently, we had a transfer student. I had mentioned that we take transfers in throughout the school year, and this was a second grader. His mom had moved to a school district that was very well known for their academics. And so she was happy that she has two sons, were going to be getting the education that, she knew that they really needed. The one is qualified as gifted. And then once she was there, she moved in and everyone's virtual. She found out that they stopped their virtual gifted program and everyone is combined into the same class. And so every day her second grader's getting up saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to log on. I don't want to do this. I'm not learning. It's boring. We never do anything new, which is what Seamus was talking about, getting the students engaged and learning and wanting to participate. So mom reached out to us and, everything works out and the little boy is now a student of ours. And she sent me a message the other day, actually pictures of him too, being so excited, engaging into his class. And he's like this in the pictures at me, but she's just so happy that she made that transition, recognizing that you do have a choice. There are other choices out there. Even though she took this, step to move to a good district, and it is a good district, but for her gifted son, he needed more. And she, researched, she reached out and she found it. And she's so happy because he's so happy. And it makes everything at home happier, of course, too, right? And then also recently, speaking with some of my neighbors who attend Menlo, the mom wanted to make sure she let us all know that she was so happy with the way the school year has been going. They've been with us for 4 years, so they experienced that spring shut down really fast, virtual learning, put everything together. We're just trying to survive to where we've thoughtfully planned everything out. And she said what's working so well for her 6th graders is the fact that they do have a schedule. they get up, they do their morning routine, they follow their schedule. They like that they know when to log on and where to go, how to interact with their classmates and teachers. And then they have that little bit of flex time where they can log off, get their work done, you know, do whatever, and then later log back on again with their schedule. So it was nice to hear that she's telling us this is really working in her house for her students learning virtually. So it makes me realize that all the steps that we've been taking and all the planning and changes that have happened are all worth it, because we're seeing these students are very happy and engaging. And I know a couple of teachers told me too that their students are engaging, they're asking questions, they're participating in the class, which is, I think, a major goal of it all is we want them engaged. We want them to be wanting to be there, right?
Yeah, so thank you for those 2 success stories, Jen. This is something that, you know, is really important in today's world. And the bottom line here, I think, is just an overall concentration on sort of realizing what students must be going through, and really tapping into that engagement by understanding each and every student's passion, and then making sure that the teachers act as you know, guides to kind of facilitate and move students through their passions and experiences that they didn't even know that they could have virtually. So instead of looking at this as the opportunity or as something bad, look at the virtual learning as an opportunity to really make some interesting things happen, you know, through you know, STEM opportunities. They're abound, they're out there, they're everywhere, and it's all about just making it happen. So thank you so much. I think we're moving into questions and answers.
Yeah, thank you. You guys did a fantastic job. A terrific overview. Thanks so much. Both of you, Jennifer and Seamus. You know, for those of you that maybe came in later in this session, rest assured this whole session is recorded and will be archived here throughout the entire month of October. We'll be sending out email and the ability to re-watch sessions in all or in part. So that's available to all attendees who have registered. I guess my question would be, if you, for either of you, how would you suggest that parents have conversations with the kids? I guess it depends on the age of the children, but you know, having conversations with their children who are gifted, you know, during these times where, you know, we know that every word spoken is sort of scrutinized and analyzed, and we know that the way the parents are modeling behavior in front of the kids is especially, you know, watched by the children. So how would you, you know, help the kids sort of calm their anxieties and speak to them?
Well, I think that oftentimes kids experience anxiety. You know, this is gifted learners and non-gifted learners because they don't have a substrate in which to sort of grab onto, right? Mm-hmm. Keeping their minds sort of satisfied really helps out a lot. Sometimes even being honest with them and saying, as an adult, you know, I'm still trying to understand what's happening here. Oftentimes that substrate is, I feel like I don't know what's happening. And just knowing that, like, the thing that I can grab onto is that no one really has a firm understanding of that. And then being able to kind of take it from there and saying, okay, if even the adults around me are sort of struggling, even though it seems counterintuitive to think like everyone's struggling, then it puts me at bay. As a gifted learner, I can say, okay, it's not just me. I always excel at maybe understanding things, and somehow I can't get a hold of this one. Now I can go, you know what, no one has a real grip on this, so I can kind of ease up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important too is right. To let your student talk, to hear what your child, what the fears are, or what they're feeling anxious about. So you can like ask some questions, not grill them, of course, but let them talk about their fears or, you know, what's making them anxious, and go from there. Like Seamus was saying, like, you need to acknowledge that this is something that's going on, and to gauge how much information to tell them is letting them talk first. So, you know, you're not putting all this information on them that maybe that they hadn't even thought about before, but instead listening to what they're saying, and then you can gear your answers around that. So you're not giving them too much, but enough to maybe settle them down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got so many bright kids over there. I bet a few of them got to have their own theories on how to solve some of these things.
I feel like it can't be worse. It can't be worse than some of the ideas that have already been out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I know there's no laughing matter. We'll get back to, traditional school at some point, but you guys have done a nice job of adapting to the situation for sure. And I'm sure you'll thrive and come out the other side doing well. So I hope this session's been informative for the parents being able to check it out. And, we certainly encourage you to learn more about Menlo Park. If you'd like to provide the contact information, Jennifer.
There you go. You can reach me at admissions@menloparkacademy.com. Make sure you check out our website. It is new, so there's a lot of new information on there also. It's menloparkacademy.com. Also, we have an open house this Saturday. It is a virtual open house, so you can do it from the safety of your own home. But it's going to be pretty fun. We're going to meet Seamus and I in our virtual gallery, and then send you off to the different floors as we have in the building, where you can meet different teachers and participate in some interactive learning. And then you'll end up back in the gallery with Seamus and I for a fun little end of the session game. So it'll be good.
Fun is where it's at. Having toured your place before, I can say it's unique and fun environment. And again, I encourage parents, check it out. It's a really unique experience over there. If you've got a gifted child or one you think may be gifted, explore that option and check out more at Menlo Park Academy. So I want to thank you both for joining us with this session, and enjoy the rest of the expo. We've got one more session coming up, and then, like I said, all this information will be archived for the future. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, everyone.